for yourself. You can be introspective. You can make better choices and decisions about what you want to do and who you are. We sometimes don't even know how much we are swayed by the thoughts and feelings and attitudes and behavior of other people in our immediate environment. Being alone gives you the time to consult yourself and make up your own mind. And again, some people are not comfortable with that. Some people kind of need to have someone tell them what to do and how to think and how to feel. And that, for people who have that kind of inclination, being alone could be quite difficult, but it might also help them to know themselves better. It can even help you know what you need in a relationship. So if you're too afraid to be alone and function on your own, you might be selling yourself out. You could find yourself settling for a relationship that ensures that you are never alone. But the bottom line is you can't possibly have a healthy relationship with others if you haven't learned to have one with yourself. So some people have anxiety about being alone. It might never have been encouraged in your family or your life around you. So if you are looking to find some time for yourself, some alone time, for some healthy work on yourself, you might want to start small. If the idea of being alone is kind of alien to you, maybe carve out a time each week, an hour or so a day, to be by yourself. To go to a movie by yourself, or have dinner by yourself, explore new places, or go for a little hike. Solitary journeys can often yield amazing results. And I highly recommend it. Learning to be alone also is a great tool, because eventually there's going to be times when you are. There's no avoiding that. So the more we can be comfortable with it and the less anxiety we feel around it, the better I think we would be. So that was our big topic back in January and February of this year on being alone. And the other big topic was thoughts and prayers. And this was following, as I mentioned, the horrible shooting in Parkland, at Parkland High School, where 17 school children died. It was at the time horrific and caused quite a lot of emotion on many different sides. It triggered a movement by young people who were tired of seeing this happen to their fellow schoolmates and others. And it's interesting and kind of sad to look back and realize since then how many more shootings have taken our attention away from that. And this movement that began with quite a lot of earnestness is no longer getting a lot of attention on the news. But beyond that, we talked about the concept of thoughts and prayers, which is based on something that people were getting tired of hearing, particularly politicians say, sending thoughts and prayers to those who lost loved ones. And the rap on that was that, sending thoughts and prayers was kind of just kind of a way of not dealing with the problem effectively. Because politicians used that phrase often, but then don't follow it up with any concrete actions like gun control legislation to make sure these things don't happen again. And the rap on it was that thoughts and prayers won't stop guns. And I understand the frustration. I understood it then. I understand it now. As more of these continue to happen and less seems like it's being done. And I want to emphasize the word seems like. Because before political action happens, as I've mentioned many times on this show, there has to be a change in consciousness. And until that change in consciousness happens, there are no other means to solve the problem. You can't solve it politically. You can't solve it with money. You can't solve it with other or more guns. You can't send good guys out with guns to take care of bad guys out with guns. It won't change anything. The only thing that will change it is the change in consciousness. And as I mentioned when we were talking about this in February, if you look at the things that have changed, that took so long, for instance, the acceptance of gay marriage, the removal of Confederate flags from federal buildings, and from sale in general, these things took so long because people weren't ready to hear them. But consciousness changed. Awareness changed. The horrible racial violence that was happening last year and the year before last led to this purging of Confederate flags. Finally. And it's also led to removal or changing Civil War statues devoted to Southern generals and so on. But that was fought hard for a long time, despite the fact that it brought back such painful memories to, and painful thoughts and feelings to so many people of color, and people not of color too, just people who felt that the Confederate flag and these Confederate generals, what they stood for was horribly wrong. But again, consciousness changed. And the best way in the world, in fact the only way that you change consciousness, is through thoughts and prayers. They do have energy. They do make a difference. They do change people. Research is inconclusive in some ways on it, but there have been many incidents that have been documented and researched that show the positive effects that prayer has on people being prayed for, as well as the people who are doing the praying. So while I understand the frustration, and while politicians giving lip service to situations that need their attention by calling for thoughts and prayers, these aren't people who really care about thoughts and prayers. It's just something they say because they don't know what else to say. This does not mean we need to throw the idea of thoughts and prayers out the window just because we're mad at these people who use it as an excuse not to do anything. Most people who believe in thoughts and prayers aren't using it for that purpose. So that was my plea in February, still is. I understand the atheists' frustration with that, and it seems like it's doing a tantamount to doing nothing. And in some hands, in some minds, it is. But for many others of us, it is perhaps the most important work we can do. Because, as I've said, until consciousness changes, nothing will change. But once the consciousness changes, very quickly you will find pardon me, changes happening in any situation, but particularly in gun violence. So thoughts and prayers, particularly with this kind of situation, may be the best thing we can do. Alright, so that covers those two really popular thoughts and ideas. You can go back and listen to those programs. On Being Alone originally aired on February the 18th and March the 4th. And Thoughts and Prayers was our February 25th segment. And also, we did on January 21st, we did another of our very favorite topics, spiritual but not religious. And we had some wellness tips for 2018 in there as well. So that's a good one to take a listen to if you're in the mood. I hope that you take some time to review those and hear them again. And in the meantime, it's time for me to wrap our second to last show for 2018. I hope that you are keeping calm as the holiday season descends upon us. Have a great week.